Live right now, though?
Yeah. Hey, welcome to Crypto News.
Yo, what's up? It's Ben and Kurt here.
And Ben, you want to introduce the topic today?
Yeah, so the topic today is we're just looking at ICOs and the landscape of ICOs and where we were last year versus where we are now. And it's just like a lot of companies still trying to raise money through an ICO, which is a really viable, great way to raise money and awareness for our products. But what's happening with the investors are not interested in dApps anymore. No one's really putting money into applications. Everyone's looking at the hot topics are protocols now.
So a little bit of the like dApp versus protocol discussion, and we're just going to talk pretty openly about how we feel about them, because it's pretty much like if you're talking to investors right now, they're pretty much, I feel like, really biased towards protocols already. But that's kind of like a decision that people weren't really making in early 2017, protocols versus dApps, but I feel like now they are. So,
well, I think this came out of kind of like the scalability issues with Ethereum. So,
Okay.
Ethereum got crushed by CryptoKitties, I think, on 3 different occasions. And all of a sudden everyone's like, wow, we're building all these apps for this platform that cannot scale to take care of our apps. So now suddenly the market went down and everyone's wallets got really tight. And the only thing that they're interested in learning about is what protocols can solve this scalability issue. I actually call it scalability springtime is what it's been, because there's
like
been
that.
so many scalability projects. There's
Yeah.
Hashgraph, Quark Chain, MetaHash, Thunder Token. What else?
Well, I feel like overall protocols
Satori
too,
is
like
another
EOS
interesting-
is even kind of a response to it. If you
EOS
really
too,
want to
yeah.
look at it,
Yeah.
like I feel like a lot of it is coming down to TPS, transactions per second, and who can do what. So you'll see a lot of these newer protocols really just flashing out how many TPS they have. And so that's kind of like maybe the metric of measure for whether it's going to be successful or not. Like, yeah, we got 1 million TPS or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. People are, Visa has 440,000 transactions per second. So the speed of Visa is 440,000 transactions per second. The speed of Bitcoin is like 5 transactions per second. The speed of Ethereum is 15.
I was really surprised when I read the stats. I was like, wait, why isn't Bitcoin or
Yeah.
Ethereum just crushing it on TPS? Aren't these guys like technology dudes that are smarter than the Visa guys? But it really comes down to like infrastructure. It's like if you built a car back in the day, like the first cars, they didn't move very fast because there are no fucking roads. So if you're on a horse, you were blazing around really fast.
That's
So
true, yeah.
Visa is like the horse in that era now, and something like Ethereum is more like a car without
Model
roads.
A.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I
Top
think
speed
about
10
it.
miles per hour.
And I think that the reason why this analogy works for me too is because it sort of explains like what the future is going to look like. Like eventually those like redneck dudes that would hop on their horses and grab their bag of rice or whatever they were doing, they're like, yeah, like I don't need no car, I'll just hop on my horse and just just cruise right over there and grab the shit I need. And then eventually those like guys that are bullish on, or like they're like horse maximalists, eventually their arguments start to kind of fade out into the background, where it's like, oh yeah, like probably don't want to ride my horse over there because there's all these sweet roads now,
Yeah. And roads turns out aren't very good for horses' hooves, right?
Yeah, they so I think the next so to me with like dApps versus protocols, like
I don't actually know how that applies to this argument, but
was that? No, I'm changing the topic.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, I think that the horses is really about TPS and explaining why, like,
The speed
how do
of
we
a horse versus the
justify?
speed of a car.
Yeah, like eventually the car had a higher TPS because the infrastructure was built, and just totally blows away a horse now.
Yeah.
And that to me means that we need to build an infrastructure for some of these lower TPS protocols. So
Well, I think that people are really hot for all of these ICOs right now, especially Quark Chain, Hashgraph. Those are MetaHash is another one. That these things are heating up because investors are so excited about the possibility, and EOS too, that these blockchains could disrupt the existing ones and provide way faster transaction speeds.
I think that that's probably true.
I think
let's
it's
just
probably
be
true too.
just
but
be straight up.
I think that apps should not be ignored. I think the real FOMO here is that the apps themselves can be blockchain independent. Like I already know plenty of apps that are moving from Ethereum to EOS, and they're finding it very easy to do. So
Yeah.
really it's like we don't have the killer app yet that's going to onboard tons of people into crypto, but
Okay, so that's right. There isn't the killer app, but
yeah.
I was reading this stat that I think is really interesting that both platforms that Dan Larimer built are sort of the killer dApps right now. The reason is,
And
they
shares?
comprise 50% of all blockchain transactions, which is
Really?
really interesting.
What?
Yeah,
know
just those
that.
two apps. And I was really surprised. And look, like, it could be a lie. And like, let me just quote my source. That came from Dan Larimer himself saying that the blockchain. So I mean, like, dude, I
Have
actually
you guys
like.
heard this? Dan, if you're watching this, is that
yeah,
true? Please comment on the video and let us know if you've heard that or read that anywhere, if you see the source of that.
But I think that
We'll put
the
it on
point is clear, and I do believe that there's validity there, which is the two apps that he built comprise a lot of the and to me that's actually a legitimate metric that I don't think is on a lot of people's radar, which does actually segue us into dApp, like talking about dApps is like in the startup world, a lot of people are like, how is your user retention and how addicted are to people's apps, and well, how do you measure that, right? And so to me, the measure of a dApp actually comes down to how many core blockchain transactions are happening on that dApp, because if it's relevant what it's doing on the blockchain, then you can measure its success in a certain degree with blockchain transactions. And so if I had to go in, and I'm going to throw out my choice for like dApps or protocols, and I like actually like both of them, but the thing that I would inject in the conversation here is that why we don't want to underestimate dApps is because Facebook is an app on this overall internet infrastructure,
Yes, yeah.
right? Where like you can't own the whole internet, but you could own that app. And probably investing in Facebook in its early days was risky as fuck, just like it is on a dApp right now. But if that dApp becomes Facebook, now it's looking way more sexy than the protocol. So that's why I think that we can't miss it. But to me, what I'm feeling is that your probability of success, like if you're somebody like Andreessen Horowitz and you need to hit 1 out of every 20 investments you have, you're going to get a lower probability of hits or home runs if you do dApps than protocols, because right now you could probably would have invested in the top 6 protocols and you'd have like 100% success rate right now. So
yeah, but I don't know if that's going to carry on to the future. You know, we can't assume that what happened in the past is going to dictate what's happening in the future. And all these different plot projects, there's not enough room for all of them to be big. You know, there's just not enough room for all these protocols to get used because they need apps. So they're going to take the money they raise and they're going to fund apps, you know, and they're going to try to get apps on board to all their protocols now. Like EOS has a huge development fund, billions of dollars to spend. I don't know how anyone's going to compete with them. Like Quark Chain,
I would want to play devil's advocate a little here, because in like just from a developer's point of view, kind of the way that we look at them in a way is like development platforms.
Right.
And like there's kind of, you could actually argue that you're right with development platforms.
Because development platforms that are more used get used more.
But see, like React Native and Rails, which are development platforms, are pretty successful by themselves, and they're coexisting in the same like ecosystem of platforms.
But they have different roles.
They do, and that's what I'm saying is that probably these...
Well, then roles would need to develop.
Yeah.
Because as of right now, everyone's trying to be the platform you build apps on.
And I think that what they're going to realize really quick is like, oh shit, we're one of the hottest platforms. However, we don't really have a differentiator. This other guy's going to eat into all of our business. So we better figure out what the hell we do good and then do that.
Another thing is I totally want to support the protocols that are open source, like EOS. And I think there's probably a lot of developers that agree with that. If you do, comment on this video, because some of these protocols are coming out, like Hashgraph, MetaHash, Quark Chain, are built on patented information, which to me is the antithesis of progress and innovation. It just slows things down.
You make it so easy to play devil's advocate. I love this.
Yeah,
I love this. So like I was explaining to some friends the other day why I love Ripple. This is probably gonna people are gonna be like, you're a piece of shit, dude. Fuck you.
I think it's
but like the thing I love about Ripple is like,
I think Ripple's really smart.
Is that it isn't really open source like you described, but what's cool about it is that the most controversial part of my view on Ripple is that it's sort of like this shady crypto underworld throwing a bone to these banks that they can chew on for a while to keep them distracted.
It is kind of like
and it's also, these banks can't really, they'd be calling the kettle black right now because they're actually implementing this XRapid shit, which is crypto. So it's gonna kind of, I feel like what it does is it keeps those powers at bay.
I feel like it's like a
way.
Trojan horse almost. It's like sneaking crypto technology into the banks.
It
so
is.
That they
That's
can't
what I
hate on it
feel.
fully. Yeah,
Like
Ripple's very smart, but what do you think about Ripple versus Stellar?
So I mean, I look at Stellar as like
totally
Ripple's like cool younger cousin,
right?
Like the one that's more of like a crypto hacker, but he's still related because they're cut from the same cloth, really. Actually, I think that the founders from Ripple or the founders of Stellar came from Ripple. Isn't that right? And then they're open source, so it's kind of like cooler, like crypto hacker. Like to me, Ripple is like a 50-year-old man's cryptocurrency is like, fuck yeah, I love my Ripple, you know? Yeah. And like Stellar is more, I mean, Stellar is probably my favorite cryptocurrency ever because I feel like they were the first ones to really come out with a strong game on an ICO. Like their launch was the most beautiful looking ICO I'd ever seen. I was like, holy shit, these guys are coming out like they're the Magic Leap of cryptocurrencies. And it's like, what? These guys came out with such a strong game. It's like, you guys were too early. Like they had such a sweet launch and they had such a awesome product. It was like, damn, you guys spent a lot of money on your product. Yeah. So Stellar from day one, I've liked
their
little
rocket ship logo. It's like,
yeah, I love it. I
just feel like Stellar's really going to go to the fucking moon.
Another thing I like about Stellar is that I feel like it has like a lot of upward pressure. And I know we've talked about this before, but we can say it here is that it's getting launched on a lot of these major platforms like Robinhood and other places where if you compare its token price and its overall market cap, it's actually lower than everything else. So once it hits those bigger markets, people are going to be like, damn, those Bitcoins are looking expensive. Let me buy some of this cheap shit.
Yeah, you could check out Kurt's video on funnel theory. We should actually get that on the YouTube.
Yeah.
But to go back to the original topic here about protocols versus dApps.
Kind of ranted there.
We're getting a little sidetracked, but what are your opinions about protocols versus dApps? What protocols are you excited about? What dApps are you excited about? We want to hear from you guys too. And, of course, use White Rabbit to learn more about all these things that we're mentioning in this video.
Oh, yeah, disclaimer. It's not investment advice, guys.
Oh, yes, this is definitely not investment advice.
It's not investment advice.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of exciting innovations that are happening, and there's a lot of interesting products. So, we want everyone to be educated about the new things that are going on in technology, and we're really deep in it, and we want to share with you guys.
And I would like to leave with this comment is that I feel like we should really say how excited we are about the EOS ecosystem coming out with how many dApps there are. We're not shilling, guys, straight up. Like, we're just excited about this. Like, I was excited about Ethereum. I'm still excited about Ethereum. We love Stellar. It's just EOS is about to pop, and it's like
no transaction fees.
Yeah.
No
transaction fees is probably the sexiest thing about it. Yeah.
No great projections of how much it costs to run a dApp on EOS yet. I still have no idea how much it would cost to run a simple app on EOS.
Maybe we should do a separate
video
post or something.
Guys have other ideas for videos, post it here, and we'll see you later.
Okay, bye-bye.